I, female 26, got several plastic surgeries and now I'm not ugly anymore. Pretty privilege exists, and here's my experience. Chapter 1. Growing up. I grew up as the ugly sibling who got praises for anything except my looks. My siblings were told how they have such beautiful eyes and adorable smiles, while I was told that my clothes look nice or that my new shoes totally suit my outfit. My grandmother would often ask my parents to let my siblings have sleepovers, but she wouldn't ask about me because they have limited beds. My siblings would often call me ugly, even up to the point until before my plastic surgeries, which hurt even more because they're grown adults now. However, I spent the majority of my time at school being the invisible person, and if I was not invisible, I was bullied instead. I was told I have frog eyes, big noses, weird teeth, which I got braces for later, and no one wanted to hang around me. It made me afraid of wanting to ask anyone to be my friends in middle school, and especially after that one time I overheard someone say, "Ew, how dare she ask me to be her friend?" It's pretty tough. My siblings were, however, very popular, got gifts for their birthdays, Christmas from their classmates, even surprise parties. Growing up ugly, you become like the invisible person no one wants to see, yet you see everyone else. Okay, so here's a thought experiment. In sociobiology, there is this concept called the Polygyny Threshold. I'm sure you guys know the word polygamy, which is to have multiple partners. Well, the Polygyny Threshold is the amount of inequality that exists in a population for the female of the species to choose a resource-rich partner, a resource-rich male, even though he may have other side pieces on the side. And so basically you're sacrificing the parental investment from the male in exchange for his resources because there's such a big inequality in resources. Biologists, they see this in a lot of different organisms like birds, but there's debate that this also exists in humans. But this makes me think, when she mentions feeling invisible, what if there is a similar threshold, but not for resources, but for looks? Nowadays, the inequality between attractive and unattractive is so great that you're introduced to faces and people you would have never seen 100 years ago. And so the below average man is taken off the market. Basically, he's invisible, he's not even considered anymore. Say the same thing probably happens with women as well, right? So every guy wants his super attractive woman, and so they have this parasocial relationship. And similarly, there's this threshold forming because the gap between attractive and unattractive is so big now, likely due to social medias. I mean, some of these faces you would have never seen in a lifetime. So your standards of beauty are constantly going higher and higher. We even made that video with a lot of research in it. This increasing feeling of being invisible, more and more people at the bottom range of this attractiveness spectrum are becoming invisible because of a similar effect, and it's going higher and higher with every passing day. Chapter 2. Dating life before. So back to her. I've been trying my luck in the dating world since I was 19, but with no luck. Men often stare at my ugliness or don't stare at all. I got into college and grew a crush on a colleague whom I gave my number to. They didn't ask for it, only for me to find that he trashed it in the bin later that day. That was my final straw. I got into an even more depressing mindset. Everything hurt twice more, and I started researching for plastic surgery options. Chapter 3. My surgeries. I traveled 12 hours to another country to get my surgeries done. It's been 4 months since I got a nose job, surgical lip lift, jawline enhancement, and some chin enhancement. I'm still healing. It takes many months for my face to adjust to the reshaping process, especially the surgical procedures, but I have already gotten extremely beautiful. It may not be your type of beautiful, but I don't hate looking into the mirror anymore. Chapter 4. My experience with suddenly not being ugly anymore. It feels like my soul was put into a new body, a new life. I'm not used to this yet, but I will try to put everything as much as possible in simple terms. I'm not invisible anymore, and people are not disgusted when they look at me. I started work in a new place after my initial recovery phase, and people started to give me more attention. My colleagues are very friendly, always invite me for drinks. People hold the door for me, ask me to sit next to them in the cafeteria when there's no other seats available, instead of waiting for someone to get up like I used to in my previous workplace. This could all be a coincidence, but I also have 2 of my colleagues who are romantically interested in me for the first time in my entire life. This change has been too sudden, and I still can't adjust to all of this. In the past, if someone approached me, it has always had a malicious intent, such as doing their jobs or tasks for them, or something of that nature, but now people are interested in knowing me beyond work. My social media game has never been a thing. My face was just too ugly to be posted, so my social media mostly had pictures of really random things until I started to heal from my surgeries and took a couple of selfies to post. Ever since, one of my ex-crushes who formerly rejected me started to talk to me more often, compliment my looks, and later introduced me to his gaming group. After posting my selfies on Instagram, other women have complimented me in random posts. Things like, "You're so pretty." It's these things that make me feel like my entire life has been changed. We tend to have the need to believe that most people are not as superficial as they seem, but in the end, they really are. So from reading her story, her anecdote on the benefits of pretty privilege, it seems like to me she's actually talking about all 6 types of pretty privilege. And if you're not familiar with the 6 different types of pretty privilege, you can read this article, but I'll just summarize it for you really quickly. There's lookism, which is discrimination based on your looks. There's norm violations, where if you're attractive and you do something naughty, socially unacceptable, then you get a pass for it, because you know it's like, oh, he just made an accident. Whereas if you're unattractive, then FBI, open up! There's also the halo effect, which most of you are familiar with. If you're attractive, which is a positive trait, then you must have all these other positive traits as well, because why not? And there's the beauty premium, where because of her looks, she may or may not be getting paid more, or more correctly, she's getting opportunities to be paid more, because now she's seen as more sociable, she can get along better, she can network her way up to the top. Quality of life benefits, which is basically like people treating you better, as she was talking about in the example. It's better for your mental health, you live longer. When I talk about beauty, it's not because I'm obsessed with the topic of beauty. I could use my skills to talk about any number of topics with as much scientific rigor and rational thought, right? But the idea of beauty, for me, it's much deeper than that. I want to give the disenfranchised, when it comes to looks, the least attractive people a voice in presenting the way that society affects them, right? So you've got these different pretty privileges, you got the double devil effect. It's really not fair. It really isn't. And if I was in that position, I too would feel very bitter and angry at the world. So when people try to denounce their voices as, oh, you're just upset, or, you know, these things don't exist, they're all in your head. I think as this channel exists, it's to provide a voice to the disenfranchised, just like you would for racially oppressed groups, just like you would for sexually oppressed groups, right? Gender inequality. I think looks inequality is also a topic that deserves a voice, right? At least we should present and look at the research, see what it's saying, and that's exactly what we're doing here. To summarize all of this like we have into this article, it becomes painfully apparent just how much pretty privilege affects your life. I will leave you with this. The benefits of attractiveness are not linear, but rather cubic. So what this means in reality, if you want to read the full article, what it means in reality is that if you make a small improvement to your looks, you will get a much larger social benefit out of it, because the benefits of attractiveness are not linear. So what you get out of what you put in, I think that looks is a fantastic place to invest your time, energy, and effort into, because again, it's not what you expect, you get more in return.